One.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Wednesday, February 9th, 2022 meeting of the Chatham Airport Commission, beginning at 5:04 in the evening. Before we start, I'm requesting that anyone who has their camera on to please turn it off if you're not an airport commissioner, and also to please mute your microphone. Thank you very much. Pursuant to Governor Baker's June 16th, 2021 signing of an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, including the extension of his March 12th, 2020 order, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, general law, section 30A, subsection 20, until April 1st, 2022. This meeting of the Chatham Airport Commission is being conducted via remote participation only. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling the phone number 508-945-4410 with the conference ID 622-657-173, followed by the hashtag. Or join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link on the posted agenda. While this is a live broadcast with simulcast on Channel 18, despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide for real-time access. We will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. All righty. Looks like we're all here. So we'll do a roll call. Commissioner Burke?
Present.
Commissioner Cortese?
Present.
Commissioner Donovan?
Present.
Commissioner Galen?
Present.
Commissioner Owens?
Present.
Commissioner Harrison? Present. The next item on the agenda is the minutes of the January 12th, 2022 regular meeting. Are there any additions, corrections, deletions to those minutes from the commissioners? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes of the January 12th, 2022 meeting.
So motion to accept the minutes.
Okay, I've got a second from Mr. Commissioner Cortese and the motion made by Commissioner Galen. All those in favor of that motion? Commissioner Burke?
Accept.
Commissioner Cortese?
Yes.
Commissioner Donovan?
Yes.
Commissioner Galen?
Yes.
Commissioner Owens?
Yes.
And Commissioner Harrison says yes. Okay, moving on to item number 2, public announcements and agenda item requests for the next meeting. I need to adjust my screen here so I can see hands raised. There are any. Mr. Fulton, I see your hand raised.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a public announcement and an agenda item request. Thousands of airports across the country utilize the gold standard, which is named FlightAware, to obtain aircraft operations data for its airport planning. Dr. Thompson and I paid for the FlightAware data for the Chatham Airport for 2021. We actually did it twice. And we knew before the end of October that the larger Type 2 airplane had become the design or critical aircraft for the Chatham Airport because it had exceeded 500 operations annually at that point. Yet you were telling the public right up to the present time that the Beechcraft Design 1 airplane was the design or critical aircraft for our airport. I note that the master plan cited a total of 20,000 aircraft operations per year at the Chatham Airport, when the total number of operations did not truly exceed as many as 4,500 operations a year. So I'd like you to put on your agenda, how and why was the Airport Commission being fed false operations data over so long a period of time?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Was that it?
Yep.
What was the announcement?
I hope that you will take up that item so that a future meeting, the public may comment on that as part of the business agenda.
Thank you. If you could please lower your hand, I'd appreciate it. Are there any other public announcements or agenda requests from the public? Okay, seeing none, we will move on. And this is public comments on new business items.
Huntley? Would you ask Mr. Fulton to?
Oh, Mr. Fulton, can you please, thank you very much. Mrs. Freeman, this is on the business at hand.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank you and the commissioners for proposing the RPZ zoning bylaw amendment for May's annual town meeting. It is clear, it is necessary, and I believe it will be successful at town meeting. I have two questions in regard to section F, as in Frank, 5, which is procedure for change in use and provides that the Zoning Board of Appeals can grant a special permit for changes in use of land or structures located in the RPZ. I'm hoping, if you haven't already done so, that you will meet with the ZBA to explain the obligation involved with federal grant assurances. Just a suggestion, because this article goes beyond their standard applications, requesting dimensional requirements, etc. And secondly, must that subsection be part of the article, since the town is obligated through grant assurances? Again, thank you for the article, and I look.
Thank you. When we get into that later on, I might be able to have an answer for you, or because I'm not, when it comes to zoning and planning board issues, I am not the person to answer that. But we can find out about section 5, and perhaps when we have that presentation later, we'll be able to answer that.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Next up, looks like Mrs. Gibbs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have two requests as you talk on these particular items moving forward, and maybe they can just be addressed during the presentation. One is regarding the cameras that you are purchasing, the 2 cameras for $22,000. I guess I'd like to know what prompted the need for them at those locations. And according to Alex Falala last night, because of the amount they have to go out under an RFP. And she seemed unaware that that had occurred because usually you get multiple quotes and then decide which one. And I don't know what the process is, who has to review that beyond the Airport Commission. So if that could just be covered. The second one was regarding the discussion last night about the fisherman's storage area and a potential cleanup. You had indicated that it's a larger issue or something that you were going to talk about tonight. And you mentioned that there is a report that, and I was wondering when that report will become available, one. And number two, is that an internal report or was an outside firm brought in to do a report on the potential removal?
It was,
just, I'm sorry.
It was part of the master plan.
So it was done by Gale Associates?
No, a subcontractor.
Okay. All right.
As I said last night, it's basically not ready for prime time.
Okay, but it will be shortly, hopefully?
I don't know how shortly, but at some point, yes.
Well, only because of the critical nature of it being in the water protection resource area. You know, that's where our groundwater and our drinking water comes from.
Right. You were at the meeting last night, right?
I'm sorry?
You were at the meeting last night, if I'm not
Yes,
mistaken.
I was.
Right. I said last night at the select board meeting that I'm working with Dr. Duncanson on this, and I'm following the town's procedures with regard to any kind of cleanup in that area.
All right, very good. Thank you. And
Right.
this other one, you know, I don't know if you can answer now, but you and I have been going back and forth since December on the storage of vehicles on the property. And you had said to me yesterday, you wrote that you're waiting further information on the airport manager's contract. And I was just wondering who you're waiting to hear from on that and how long that's going to take. Because I've asked the question in mid-December.
It's a legal matter.
So is it our town council? Since they wrote, our town council wrote the contract. So I assume it would be him rather than outside counsel.
Can't answer that. Sorry.
So
it'll be either him or our council, one of the two.
Okay. I would think the first line of inquiry would be to Pat Costello. He wrote it. That would make sense. He knows what he wrote and what it meant, rather than going to a third party. Okay, I guess that's it for me.
I'm sorry, the buzzer just rang, so I'm sorry your time is up, ma'am.
I'm done.
Okay, if you could lower your hand, we can proceed. Thank you. Anything else from the public? Okay, moving on. The first order of business that we have is to deal with an open meeting complaint that was filed on January 19th, 2022 by Mr. David Bixby. I'll read the complaint. Mr. David Bixby's complaint of January 19th, 2022 alleges that during the January 12th, 2022 meeting of the Chatham Airport Commission, airport consultant Matt Caron disclosed that he had met with the chairman of the Airport Commission and a few others for collaborative discussion of the town Chapter 100 and navigation easements with respect to the proposed meeting with 22 property owners. A private collaborative discussion of four or more members of the commission violates the state open meeting law. Here are some of the facts. The meeting referenced was a staff level meeting or a coordination meeting with only 2 members of the Airport Commission participating. No private collaborative discussion of 4 or more commission members relative to this subject matter occurred outside of a duly posted public meeting. The results of the referenced staff level coordination meeting were brought before the full commission at its January 12th, 2022 meeting, which was posted on January 7th, 2022, well in advance of the 48-hour posting requirement, for review, deliberation, and a vote to approve the scope of work and fee for obstruction removal. Additionally, the proposed project scope of work and fee were also available for public review and download in the meeting package posted on mytowngovernment.org on January 7th, 2022, as well, almost 5 days in advance. Do any of the commissioners have any comments on the open meeting law complaint? Good evening, Mr. Bixby. Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to ask for a motion from a commissioner to
Huntley?
deal with this.
Mr. Chairman,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Huntley?
Yes,
I just logged in. I heard you say my name. I don't know what's going on.
I just read your complaint.
Oh, you weren't asking to talk to me then.
No, I just said hello.
I'm sorry. I just turned my computer on. I heard my name. I thought you were talking to me. I'll turn my mic off.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
regarding David Bixby's open meeting law complaint of January 19, 2022, and in consideration of the above noted facts that you mentioned, I move that the commission determine that no meeting of a public body which is subject to the provisions of the open meeting law occurred, as alleged in the complaint, and accordingly, that no remedial action by the commission is warranted in response thereto. Further moved that the commission authorize the chair to issue a response to the complainant and Attorney General's office notifying them of the commission's determinations and its disposition of the complaint.
I second.
We have a second?
Yep.
Roll call. All in favor of the motion? Commissioner Burke,
Aye.
Commissioner Cortese,
Yes.
Commissioner Donovan.
Aye.
Commissioner Galen,
Yes.
Commissioner Owens,
Yes.
Commissioner Harrison. Yes. Motion carries 6-0. I will see that a letter is sent to the Attorney General's office providing our response.
And as well as Mr. Bixby.
Well, yes, of course. Thank you. Thank you all. We're into commissioner reports now. Let's start off with Commissioner Burke. You have something for the revolving fund.
I guess for the period January, the rental lease receipts received $3,273 and change, bringing the year-to-date total to $24,667. Personal services expended $336.49, bringing the year-to-date figure to $1,123. Purchase services was $5,605.20, bringing the year-to-date figures to $43,694.98. In hangar leases, it's reported we received $6,339.57, bringing the year-to-date total to $29,068.34.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody have any questions on the revolving fund? I have an announcement to make, but anything specifically for the month of January? Okay. Just so you all know, as a result of a vote last night by the select board and a previous vote by a unanimous vote by the finance committee, the request to increase the spending cap in the revolving fund for fiscal year 2022 by $25,000 to $100,000 was accepted. So our spending cap for the remainder of this year is, for FY22, is $100,000. We will be we probably, with some of the expenses that we have so far determined, we will probably be very close to that. Does any commissioner have any questions about that and how we arrived at that figure? Actually, yes, I've got something. Mr. Whalen, could you put that graph up, please? So the public can see the rationale for that increase. Thank you. You'll notice on this, for those of you who are looking, the bottom blue rectangle represents the $50,000 that is, I'm sorry, let's see. Yes, I'm sorry. The $50,000 that we normally spend during a year. The 17,000 above that is the scope of work that we voted on last time for Gale Associates for the obstruction removal project to start with. The 4,000 is allocated for a public relations firm. The 9,500 is allocated for legal services. And the 22,000 on top is for the security cameras that have been requested by the airport. The 50,000, as you heard in the revolving fund report, we haven't even come close to that yet. And I think we're good to go on that. I believe there was a question about the security cameras, and I'll address that when the time comes with regard to going out for an RFP. And other than that, the only thing that is probably buried in that lower 50,000 are some unanticipated events like storms and equipment breakdowns, which we certainly have no control over. And we're hoping that with the money cap going to 100,000, we will be able to meet any extraordinary contingencies that might happen. Any questions on anything regarding the revolving fund?
No.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you, Commissioner Burke. Commissioner Cortese, anything for the good of the order?
None for me tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Donovan, anything for the good of the order?
Nothing for me, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Galen?
Not this month, but
Thank
next
you.
month for sure.
Okay, Commissioner Owens?
Nothing this month, Mr. Chairman.
And Commissioner Harrison, I have a couple of things here. Want to make an announcement. The airport open house is on June 11th. That's always a well-attended affair. And hopefully we'll have good weather. We have in the past. We've been very lucky. We haven't had to cancel. But mark your calendars for Saturday, June 11th for the airport open house. I've heard tentative plans that it should be really good. One of the things I heard last night at the select board meeting was a presentation on the American Disabilities Act and accessibility. And one of the things they mentioned was accessibility issues at the airport. And I think that's something that we should address. I plan to look into that. I've asked for the report to be sent to us so that I can review it or we can review it and see just what we can do to make the airport a little more accessible for people in wheelchairs and so on. We do have some funding from the government that we got through either the CARES Act or ARPA funding and so on. And also that infrastructure grant, which we're still waiting to hear about. I don't know why that's taking so long, but it's a relatively large amount of money. So I think we can at least get a start on being a little more ADA compliant going forward if we can use some of those funds. More on that in the future. I would like to, at this time, introduce a new commissioner who was approved last night by the select board, Mr. Sean Hobeck. He is on the screen. The gentleman on my screen is just below Dave Owens, but I don't know where it would be on anyone else's screen. So Sean, just wave at the group just so they know who you are. There you go. Sean joins us. He's a resident of Chatham, and he is a commercial pilot, I believe, for Atlas Air, and flies all over the world for them, whether it's charter or air freight, I believe. Is that correct, Sean?
That is correct, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. Sean is back actually just visiting tonight because he's not quite sworn in yet, but as soon as he gets sworn in, he will be a full-fledged member of the airport commissioner going forward, and will probably be on the commission full-time with us, not as a guest, but as a voting member in the March meeting. I see Mr. Galen's hand up.
Not about Sean, but back to your comments about the ADA, et cetera. I just want to thank Carol Gordon for her comments about that last night at the select board meeting. And we appreciate that kind of comment about things at the airport and her suggestion vis-a-vis, handicap access.
Right. Yes, I would second that. Sean, do you have anything you might want to say in terms of your background or anything to kind of introduce yourself to the group?
Sure, Mr. Chairman. Again, my name's Sean Hobeck, resident of Chatham, live over on White Pond, across from the airport. Currently, I am via satellite here in Cincinnati, working with my current union, doing some work out here. But I am a commercial pilot with Atlas Air. Fly 747s, mostly freight around the world. And I am excited to start working with the Airport Commission and getting a little more involved with the community.
Thank you. Well, we look forward to having you. I think it'll be a good combination, a good fit. All right. Thank you. Moving on, airport managers report tonight. Mr. Howard will be replaced by Mr. Howard, Senior.
Hi, Huntley. Yeah, I'm sitting in for my son, the airport manager, who's trying to get a little rest and vacation, which he well deserves. The guard report you'll see is attached for January in there. I think it was 858 ops. It's about the same as this last year. January was around that same number. The only other thing that was going on lately at the airport was, of course, this storm back on the 28th and 29th. It knocked out power to the main building, and it was out from about 8:30 Saturday until Sunday evening about 6 o'clock. The main damage to the, if you will, to the building was really just in the backup battery equipment that there's a battery backup for like the camera system, etc. And that, when the power dips and stuff, that obviously did something to damage that. So we're getting a replacement backup battery for that. It's a good thing that the commission and the state and the town all participated a few years back to get us the snow removal equipment, because that was a pretty serious storm, as you all know. And we got the airport cleared by Sunday morning, or actually my son and his cohorts did. And they were actually probably the first airport on the Cape to have it cleared, because we took traffic from Hyannis and Nantucket because their runways were unusable. So we took a couple of smaller airplanes and some fuel, and they sat here until the other airports opened up. So that equipment actually paid off very well, especially in this heavy snowstorm that we had. So it was a kudos to them. They did a good job on that. And other than that, that's about all we have to report at this time. Oh, there was damage to we had one tree over the fence, which we have gotten off the fence, but that section will need to be fixed.
Right. Well, on behalf of the commission, I want to thank the airport manager and his staff, and please relay this message for the superb work they did in clearing the runway in such a speedy fashion. And the fact that we could be used as kind of, I'll put in quotes, a reliever airport temporarily for some of the flights from Nantucket and Hyannis, kind of waiting out for those runways to be clear. I think it's a great thing that happened, and it certainly is a feather in our cap to have that done so quickly. So on behalf of the commission, I really appreciate that. Thank you all.
I'll pass that on.
Thank you. Any comments on the airport manager's report? Otherwise, I will take a motion to accept the airport manager's report.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Second.
The report has been moved and seconded for acceptance. Roll call, Commissioner Burke.
Yes.
Commissioner Cortese.
Yes.
Commissioner Donovan.
Yes.
Commissioner Galen.
Yes.
Commissioner Owens.
Yes.
And Commissioner Harrison, yes. Thank you all very much. Thank you. And next on the agenda is the engineer's report. Mr. Karen from Gale Associates. Good evening.
Hey, Huntley, can you hear me okay?
You might want to up your volume just a tad.
What about now?
Better.
That's better. All right. Well, good evening. Good evening, members of the Airport Commission. Mr. Hobeck, good evening. My name is Matt Karen. I work for Gale Associates. We provide airport planning and engineering services for the Airport Commission, and I certainly look forward to working with you in the future. So as Huntley is aware, and for the rest of the commission's edification, we've been reaching out to property owners that may have trees that are affecting the airport's approach surface. We've started setting up, initial discussions with property owners. I think we have maybe 6 of them this week between Thursday and Friday. And these are just, like I say, preliminary discussions with property owners to discuss what the situation is at the airport with respect to the trees that are encroaching within the airport's approach surfaces. And we'd like to discuss some options with these property owners as to how we may be able to mitigate those trees. So those discussions will be ongoing over the next, I think, 3 or 4 weeks. We've got, like I say, meetings scattered all over, the month of February with a few of them over Thursday and Friday. So that is all I have for this evening, but I'd be happy to entertain any questions or answer anything else that you may have for me.
I don't. Any other commissioners have any questions for Mr. Karen? All right. I will say that in the package, there is a letter, a second letter that we sent out. We got a pretty good response from the first letter, but the second letter is just a request to try to get a little more information back from the property owners. We've had good response so far. I know some people, a couple I've been talking to, I know are in Florida, and I think they said they're coming back, and they'd be more than happy to talk to us when they come back. The next step I'm unfortunately going to have to take on this is to send a certified letter that they'll have to sign on the third round if it comes to that. I'm hoping it won't, but this is something that really needs to get done, and we need to start the interview process so that we can move forward with this. So that's basically where we are with that. Again, any questions on the engineer's report from any of the commissioners? Okay, can I get a motion to accept the engineer's report?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner Owens. Commissioner Burke,
Yes.
Commissioner Cortese,
Yes.
you, Commissioner Donovan,
Yes.
Commissioner Galen,
Yes.
and Commissioner Owens,
Yes.
and Commissioner Harrison, yes. Thank you all very much. The next order of business is the installation of the security cameras and the approval of the Galaxy quote, which is in the package. It is $22,427.02. There was a question before the meeting and also last night at the select board meeting that hasn't this gone out for, because it's so much money, for an RFP. And my understanding from the airport manager is that he did put it out and contacted several companies, and Galaxy was the only one that had the kind of cameras that they can use for the distance involved and the resolution involved. If Mr. Howard Sr. is still available, if he could come back on, I'd appreciate it.
I'm here, Huntley.
Thank you. The exact location of the cameras is that they are facing down toward the hangars. Is that correct?
Well, one of them is down where the T hangars are, and that's a fair distance from the main building. There's nothing down there right now for a camera or whatever. So that's definitely one area. There's nothing that could even look from the admin building that far. So one camera would be down there, and the other one, it's basically to supplement the front man gate and the parking area out there. There's some camera coverage now, but there's gaps in that. The limit with what you can do with the one camera there, and there's one on the fuel farm that looks out a little further towards the runway, etc. That's all the detail I know.
Okay. The one new camera facing the man gate is that you're talking about, the one on George Ryder that
Correct.
Green path into the airport.
Right, and it doesn't catch too much of the tarmac there where the planes would park, and sometimes they're parked way on the far edge on purpose if they're there for a while.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and I remember speaking with your son about this, and I believe he did say he did examine other possible companies for this. Do you know anything, any detail on that?
No, I don't, but I'm sure, we could, if you need to get a list or something from, him, who else they contacted.
Yeah, because when I spoke with him, I was under the result of the conversation was that he had gone out to other companies, and this was really the only company that had the kinds of cameras that they need for that area. All right, I think, given the fact that the question was raised about an RFP last night, I think what we'll do is we'll have a motion. I'd like a motion to accept the quotation with the proviso that we have a written documentation that other companies were contacted prior to this. I believe they were, but just for complete transparency on this for the public, I think it would be important that we do this. I see some hands up. Mr. Whalen, I see your hands up. Can you give us a comment, please?
Yeah, so just very quickly. So again, I think the addition of that to your motion is prudent. But just to point out, so in the package that was put together, so this the use of Galaxy, I'm just pulling up the graphic right now. So in the preparation of this, so Galaxy is on the state contract. So this is somewhat of a streamlined procurement process. So what, similar to what we've done before, and again, I can follow up with Tim when he's back with the submission of the purchase order, which would, get this in motion. The documentation, so the purchase order would have also as an attachment, not only this quote, but the due diligence that the airport manager had conducted in order to comply with procurement. So this does not require, it doesn't trigger an RFP. That's, by using the state contract process, you do not need to do an RFP nor any other kind of, advertising. So it's just basically everything that's spelled out in the state contract that's cited here, which is state contract ITC 71. So, and again, we use Galaxy quite a bit for different things throughout town. So provided Tim did that due diligence, we would attach that to the purchase order. And again, assuming that the commission authorizes that administratively, those would be the next steps to comply with the procurement.
Okay, thank you. That clarifies some things. Very good. Commissioner Owens?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Terry answered the question. I know when we were looking for quotes for fencing, some companies that declined to bid on the project or weren't able for whatever reason to help us out, that counted as another source that we look for prices from. So it should be all right. Thank you.
Okay. So all that said, I made a suggestion for a motion that we accept and move forward with the quotation for Galaxy's services for the security cameras, with the proviso that we go through the proper process once Mr. Howard gets back from vacation. So will someone make that motion, please?
I will.
Thank you.
I'll make, go ahead, Nick.
Actually, I would actually say that I move that we accept the bid from Galaxy as under the proviso that they are part of the state contract, which would preclude having to go through any other process. Just written confirmation that Galaxy is within the state contract.
Okay. He made the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you. We've got it. All right. Roll call to accept the motion. Commissioner Burke?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Cortese?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Donovan?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Galen?
Yes.
Commissioner Owens?
Yes.
And Commissioner Harrison, yes. Thank you all very much. Okay. The next order of business is the runway protection zone zoning. And I would ask Mr. Whalen again to bring up the document on the screen, I guess the map. And this is page 1 of the article. The whole article, or draft of the article, I should say, is included in the package. And the whole purpose here is that we are requesting that the planning board and the zoning board pay attention to the runway protection zones as diagrammed, so that future development in those areas follows FAA guidelines for RPZs. It's basically as simple as that. It is our recommendation for them to do that, hence this article that we've put together, and we know that it's not airport property, so that's why it can only be a recommendation that this be done. I do think, from a liability point of view, that to have this article passed at annual town meeting is of critical importance. It's not going to stifle any major, any construction, as far as I can see, as long as that construction is amenable to the FAA guidelines. And properties that are already there are fine. The issue is, if we didn't do it, what would happen in the future if a developer came in and took over, say, job lot or some other area nearby within those zones, and if the bylaw wasn't there and in effect, could possibly put up something that would violate the FAA guidelines and cause a safety hazard in that area. That area needs to be clear. It should have been kept clear a long time ago. But at the same time, we have to deal with what we can. We can't change history. And the point here that I'm trying to make is that we have to do the best we can to make sure that the areas on the close approach paths and the runway protection zones are kept minimally undeveloped. If people read the FAA guidelines on this, it's pretty clear what you can put in there. And if anyone has any questions on that, they can check the guidelines. I believe it's on our website. If it's not, I'll make sure that it gets there very soon. But I think it's there already. So, I think it's important that we in our vote here to send this recommendation to the select board so that they can go through and deal with the process appropriately with the planning board and the zoning board. So what I've got here is to track the process recently used more closely by the Historical Commission for a zoning bylaw. Please find below the refined motion from the one included in the meeting package. The one in the package is we just changed the wording a little bit. I will read it through once, and then and if there are any questions on it, we can answer those questions, and then we can vote accordingly. If the commission concurs with the draft article, here's the proposed motion. I move to submit the proposed RPZ overlay district zoning bylaw amendment to the select board pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 5, adoption and amendment for their consideration, and vote to forward to the planning board for a public hearing. Now, I know, Mrs. Freeman, you had a question about Section 5. Are we good to go on that, or do you still have some comments on that? Hearing none, we'll go to Mr. Whalen.
Yeah, thank you. And if I'll just give a quick overview again, just for the audience as well, just for real quick, and I can address Mrs. Freeman's earlier concern. So just again, in your package, and again, the chair did a fantastic job hitting all the purpose and rationale, and quite frankly, even the process. So, but I'm just going to go over a couple of components again, because I know the commission probably is not familiar with dealing with zoning amendments in a regular basis. So just what's in your package is essentially a draft zoning article. And this includes basically 3 primary sections. So there's multiple things going on here, to execute and implement such a change in the zoning bylaw. So the first primary section here is that I have up on the oh no, I don't have it up on the screen. I took it down. Sorry about that. I'll put back up on the screen here. So again, in your package, section 1 essentially is the actual amendment to the zoning map. So that would actually be, the existing RPZs as indicated in the ALP being added to the zoning map. So that's the first action as part of this. I'll call it a combined, ultimately would be a combined motion. The second piece, section 2 here, is the actual creation within the zoning bylaw document to create a runway protection zone overlay district. And then the third section is actually the specifications for the the RPZ overlay district. So again, as the chair went through, quite frankly, already the rationale for the purpose. So I won't reread this, but again, to track or be consistent with other overlay districts, such as the Water Resource Protection District or other bylaws that are similar, in a protective nature. We're just modeling that. And I do want to point out that this bylaw, has its genesis was in some early coordination meetings with the planning board, and then basically the understanding that the commission was going to generate a bylaw, and this has had input from both town council Pat Costello and Matt Karen as well. So it's already gone over that. We already had that level of internal review. Again, I'm going to move on here to section 2, the location. Essentially, this, the format or what this section is, this really just serves as really a cross-reference to the zoning map. So again, the same similar language in the original part of the article to amend the zoning map. But again, as if this were to be implemented and adopted into the zoning bylaw, it's again the cross-reference for someone to see graphically where the RPZ would be located. The permitted uses section here is basically, again, more to stay in the format of the other bylaws with the creation of an overlay district. The prohibited uses, as the chair kind of already went through, the purpose here is really to, with the prohibited uses, is really to implement the provisions of the advisory circular AC 150/5330-13. So again, we've had various discussions on this in the past, but essentially it's using a lot of the language pretty close to verbatim or slightly paraphrased. So again, the intent, as the chair noted here, this is really the primary structure of the bylaw. So that would spell out the uses that are prohibited, but in this case, make it more consistent with the advisory circular. And then just pointing out section 5 here. So and again, as Ms. Freeman had talked to earlier in the meeting. So again, this section is in here acknowledging the fact that as one of the examples given, while the creation of the RPZ, it will not affect what's in place. The only impact it would have, it creates a status under zoning, which would be as a pre-existing non-conforming use under section 6 of the Zoning Bylaw Act. So again, this is just to point this out. And I think Ms. Freeman's comment is well taken, that it might be worth the commission to reach out to the zoning board to just give them a presentation as well. They would be part of the process if this were to be adopted. Say Job Lot were looking to do something in the future that was in conflict with the bylaw. So that was a good comment. And again, just for structure, again, as with any typical draft town meeting article, we also have an explanation here, and then would also follow up with additional information that would get into the warrant into the future. So with that, if there's any questions, but just kind of, I think it's pretty straightforward from a perspective, and I thank Matt and Pat Costello for their input on the process as well to refine some of the earlier drafts.
Thank you, Terry. That was good. I think it explained things certainly very clearly, and I think moving forward on this is going to be a good thing. I think we have to do it. I feel we have to do it. I think it's a safety issue that we can address, and I think we've done our due diligence in order to do that. So I would like to have a motion with regard to this acceptance of the proposed RPZ overlay district.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I move to submit the proposed runway protection zone overlay district zoning bylaw amendment to the select board pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 5, adoption and amendment for their consideration, and vote to forward it to the planning board for a public hearing.
Thank you. Is there a second for that?
I second.
Second.
Okay, we've got 2 seconds. We're good to go. Roll call to accept. Commissioner Burke,
Yes.
Commissioner Cortese,
Yes.
Commissioner Donovan,
Yes.
Commissioner Galen,
Yes,
Commissioner Owens,
Yes.
and Commissioner Harrison, yes. Thank you all. Okay, moving on to our last order of business. And this is just an update on Airport Commission engagement of legal counsel. At last night's select board meeting, the select board gave their approval for us to go ahead and engage legal counsel with a proviso that they have a chance to interview the company, the primary from the company, Mr. David Mackey from Anderson and Krieger. Hopefully they'll be able to do that before the next select board meeting next week so that they can interview Mr. Mackey and then move ahead and approve it. The select board is following town charter guidelines on this, which says they have to approve legal counsel that is hired by the town. So they're doing their due diligence on that, and we will know for sure next week whether or not we will have they will approve it. I have a feeling that they will. I hope. The interview is a formality due to the town charter, but I think that will be a good thing. It'll be a good thing for us going forward, especially with the discussions we're going to have with property owners and the easement issue. So, all that said, is there anything else for the good of the order? If not, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Any discussion?
Second.
No discussion. Okay. All right, roll call. Commissioner Burke,
Yes.
Commissioner Cortese,
Yes.
Commissioner Donovan,
Yes.
Commissioner Galen,
yes.
Commissioner Owens,
Yes.
and Commissioner Harrison, yes. Thank you all for your participation. Thank you to the audience for your guidance and help this evening and your comments. We will take up some of your requests as time permits in the future. And thank you for Channel 18 and your help. And Mr. Whalen, thank you for your presentations this evening. I think they were very clear and very helpful. So having said that, I will bid you all adieu till next time.
Good night.